Joining us now to discuss technology trends and the digital infrastructure industry is Rahul Mewawalla, CEO and President of Mawson Infrastructure Group, a NASDAQ-listed technology company focused on digital infrastructure platforms for artificial intelligence, AI, high-performance computing, HPC, and digital assets markets. It's great to have you here, Rahul.
Thanks for having me, Jasmine.
So, most people are familiar with GPU companies such as NVIDIA or AI application companies like OpenAI. But Rahul, you're the CEO of a digital infrastructure company. So how do digital infrastructure companies fit in?
It's a great question, Jasmine. And you're right. Most people are very familiar with whether it's OpenAI's ChatGPT, or even if you use things like Instagram or Facebook, Meta has really introduced their own sort of version of AI across their product lines. And clearly, NVIDIA has done very well, obviously, in recent years, and most folks now are familiar with NVIDIA. But there's an entire ecosystem that powers AI. And if you just work backwards, when you pull up your phone and you're using either ChatGPT or you're using one of the other products that use AI, if you work backwards from there, behind whether it's the prompt or it's the AI agent, you've got an enormous amount of software that's enabling that. Behind the software, you've got a cluster of hardware. So essentially a cluster of GPUs that work together with each other to provide the compute that you require for the AI applications. But behind the cluster, you've got the underlying digital infrastructure, which is facilities and sites that host these clusters of GPUs, that provide the power they need to enable the compute, that connect them with fiber across the nation. And that's where Mawson Infrastructure Group plays. So we are essentially, in many ways, the bedrock for how you think about AI, accelerated compute, and high-performance compute moving forward. And we provide the underlying digital infrastructure and the data center facilities to power what people think of as whether it's OpenAI's ChatGPT or Meta's applications or Google's applications or Copilot at Microsoft.
Okay, so you're literally the power source.
It's really interesting you said that, because if you think about the evolution of the industry, right? Some years ago, the real bottleneck was around GPUs. And then, there was the conversation around, well, do we have sufficient capital to power the sort of next industrial revolution around AI? Mm-hmm. But I think the conversation today is really about power, which is, you think about everything that we do with AI today, which is just the beginning. And then you think of everything we envision that we will do with AI moving forward. You need an enormous amount of power for all of that compute. And companies such as ours who've invested in utilizing power resources, especially in places like the Rust Belt of America, right? So Pennsylvania, Ohio, sort of neighboring states that have power equipment that for years has been underutilized or unutilized, that we now have utilized to build sort of these data centers and digital infrastructure facilities around to power the next generation of compute. Really is, I think, a very interesting story.
Very interesting. And also, based on your recent publicly released operational updates, some of your key businesses are digital co-location services, AI co-location, and energy management. So maybe you can talk us through some of those business lines.
Sure, absolutely. We at Mawson have been through a journey of transformation over the last year and a half. What we've really done is say, how can we look at our business and not only grow our revenue moving forward, but strengthen the revenue that we see as we continue to build the company. So what we've done is diversify our revenue streams. And as you rightly pointed out, we now have multiple revenue streams. So we recently announced our expansion into AI and high-performance computing and that co-location business, where we will work with partners and enterprise-grade customers who want to bring their GPUs and deploy their clusters using our infrastructure and our facilities. So we're very excited about our expansion into that business. We also have, as you mentioned, our digital co-location business, which is a business where we work with a number of enterprise-grade customers where they deploy their compute machines, or as we call it in the industry, ASICs, for digital assets. And this is a business that we've seen substantially grow over the last several months. And we continue to sort of see growth in that business moving forward. And now work with a number of enterprise-grade customers where we provide them with digital co-location services. The third part of the service, Jasmine, as you talked about, was our energy management business. And, I think most people don't fully realize that when you build an electric grid anywhere in the country, it's a really difficult thing to do because you've got to gauge what demand is going to look like moving forward and then build supply accordingly. But demand, as you know, when it gets really hot or really cold, peaks. And it's in those times when the grid gets to a place of imbalance. And companies like ours, where we are consumers of energy, but we're able to use software to determine how and when we want to use energy and in what proportion, can actually help participate in energy management programs that bring the grid to a balance, particularly in peaks of, whether it's very hot in the summer or very cold in the winter. And so our participation in energy management programs and the revenue we generate from that is our energy management business. And then the fourth part of our business is our digital asset self-mining business, where we use our own compute and our own compute application servers to essentially participate in the broad blockchain ecosystem.
Oh, very interesting. That's and another interesting thing is that you were actually featured in a cover story, correct, for Newsweek magazine?
That's right.
And I found it very interesting to see just your innovative approach to digital infrastructure sites. So tell us about your digital infrastructure sites and facilities.
Yeah, no, I mean, that cover story in Newsweek was terrific. And I think, what it really did was bring recognition to the company and our strategy in terms of how we think about building digital infrastructure. So, if you think about the historic model around building data centers, they were typically built around sort of tech hubs, right? So whether it's sort of Virginia in the Northeast, or around San Francisco, Seattle, on the West Coast. And our view is, while certainly you can go down that path, there's a real opportunity to drive what we call a renaissance around America's Rust Belt. So if you think about, America's Rust Belt, which includes states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, where we have a number of facilities, this really, in our view, is the heartland of America, right? I mean, you look back in the day, manufacturing, steel plants, paper mills, all of these were built in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio. And when they were built back in the day, you had all of this power infrastructure that was built to support these industrial facilities. And as a lot of the manufacturing and industrial activity has moved, to other parts of the world, this power infrastructure remains. And so our strategy has been identifying areas where there is underutilized or unutilized power infrastructure and to build digital infrastructure around that. And so, for example, one of our sites is in Midland, Pennsylvania, which is about 30 minutes away from Pittsburgh International. And we've taken power infrastructure, repurposed that to build digital infrastructure around it. And we currently operate a 120 megawatt site in that area, which is one of the sites that we operate. And not only have we created sort of a 21st century digital infrastructure facility, but we've also taken the local workforce, who historically used to be in manufacturing or in industrial sort of applications, and retrain them for site engineering and digital infrastructure engineering. And so we see this as a cascading effect. We see that we can bring progress to a broader part of America. We can repurpose infrastructure that remained idle. We can retrain a local workforce for jobs of the next generation. And in turn, we can participate in what we believe is the next industrial revolution, which is around high performance compute and accelerated compute.
Right. Well, it's very important to bring, obviously, more jobs. I think a lot of people would really appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And can you talk to us a little bit about your 100% carbon zero energy approach to powering your digital infrastructure? How do you think about it, and does it provide you with a competitive advantage?
Yeah, I'm very glad you asked about that, Jasmine, because I think it's one of the unique things about Mawson. We are across all of our sites 100% carbon zero, and we take great pride in that. And the reason for that is not only do we believe that it's a sustainable strategy, but even from a business and commercial standpoint, if you want to serve marquee AI customers, they are looking to work with digital infrastructure companies that are 100% carbon zero. And so, our view is that that's a strategic imperative for the company. If you go to like one of our sites in Western Pennsylvania, you'll see that we're right across the river from Beaver Valley nuclear plant. Our belief is that there is going to be a lot more innovation around carbon zero energy sources. Not only just solar and hydro, but we're, for example, are looking very closely at nuclear. And we believe that there's going to be real innovation in nuclear moving forward. As you probably know, Google and Microsoft announced deals with companies to build what are called sort of small nuclear reactors. There's a lot of work that's happening at Carnegie Mellon University, which is 30 minutes away from our facility, around nuclear engineering. And so I think as AI continues to grow, as you and me and others continue to use AI more in our lives in a profound way, the amount of compute that'll be needed to power this will continue to grow. And this compute in turn will need an enormous amount of energy. And I think if we can all, look to how we can power that compute with carbon zero, I think it provides a real sustainable way to continue to grow compute moving forward. And we're very proud to be part of that.
I agree, and you should be proud. Just one more question for you. Now, you've assembled a whole new management team with people from different companies like Apple, T-Mobile, and Yahoo. How important is it to have a deep technology expertise when you're building and operating modern digital infrastructure?
We looked at our organization about a year and a half ago. And, we said, listen, we've got a great organization. We've made significant strides. But fundamentally, to your point, we are a technology company. And, we are operating at the frontier of breakthrough technology, right? You think about whether it's artificial intelligence, you think about high performance computing, you think about digital assets. We're talking about things that are going to, revolutionize how we think, live, operate for many years to come, right? And our view was we need a team that not only understands how we operate our business and can optimize our business, but also a team that understands how the broader ecosystem operates. Because the better we understand our customer needs, the better we can service them. And so over the course of the last several months, we have really upgraded the talent we have within the organization. To your point, we've recruited people from, Apple and T-Mobile, and we've got people from Nokia and Yahoo and GE and a number of tech companies. And the organization now, just operates at a whole new level. We're very data-driven. We use software to monitor our performance 24/7. We're continually thinking about how we improve our facilities, our sites, our operations, how we service our customers, our revenue numbers, our cost targets. And I think that level of sophistication has come from how we've really rebuilt the team and thought about ourselves as fundamentally a technology company.
Yes, and it sounds amazing to have all these different avenues, people from different backgrounds all coming together. So I imagine that's just extremely helpful. Thank you so much for sharing those advancements. I wish you all the luck with Mawson Infrastructure Group, and thank you again for being here, Rahul.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thanks for having me.